What is up, everybody? Shawn Tubbs here. Today I want to talk about this particular guitar. And I'll start by saying I ran it over with my truck, and then we'll come back around to that. This guitar started out life as a California custom shop Schecter Hellcat. Now, this one caught my eye in the late 90s. I want to say 98 or possibly 99. I bought it at a shop called Mesa Boogie Hollywood. And what caught my eye was it had the 3 Seymour Duncan mini hums in it, kind of a Firebird kind of thing. So I was just kind of drawn to it and wanted to take it down off the wall and hear it. And I loved the versatility that I could get out of this guitar. I don't know if you could totally tell from that thing I did, the noodling at the top, but you can obviously choose between the 3 pickups with this selector, but you can also pull the tone, and what happens is it'll basically add the middle position. If I'm in the front, it'll basically be these 2. If I'm in the center, it'll be all 3 pickups when this is pulled. And then down, it's just like a Stratocaster would be, which is the back 2 pickups. So I was able to get all these really cool kind of Firebirdy tones, but also kind of Strat-esque tones that weren't really Stratty, but just unique sounding and cool. Now, this guitar is not to be confused with the new Hellcats you may have seen. They're the USA model Hellcats. Those have, you can tell right away because most of those have a blade switch. And it's crazy, I couldn't really find a stock photo of this guitar so you could see it with its actual headstock, but I'll find something, and so you can tell how it actually looked. Okay, so why, and actually it's in remarkably good shape for being run over by a truck. So how did I run it over with my truck? I am having a hard time with the timelines, and I've been this way my whole life. And as I get older, it gets worse. But I believe it was around 2003, maybe later 2003. I was called to do a session for an artist named Fernando Ortega. Dude is just brilliant. He's a contemporary Christian artist, and I got called for that session. It was at Capitol Studios in the Capitol Records building in Hollywood there. And I remember finding out who was on the session. It was a bunch of great players. A guy named Larry Taylor. He's since passed away, God rest his soul, but amazing bass player. I believe he played mainly upright bass on this session. He's played with John Mayall, Canned Heat, Tom Waits. Another killer bass player is Eli Thompson, who's actually a longtime friend of mine. I've known him for years. Of course, he's playing with Father John Misty. I think he's still playing with, I think he still is. And of course, the amazing Mr. Leland Sklar. They were picking, it was a hodgepodge of players that they were using for this record. So that's, 3 bass players right there that are all, indescribably good. And of course, Lee Sklar, that dude's played with everybody. I mean, most notably, if you've heard of him, it might have been his touring and playing with Phil Collins, but that dude's, he's legend. And I'll come back around to him and what happened here. But there were amazing drummers, David Raven. I've known Dave Raven forever. I remember when he showed up on the session, he showed up with a kick drum like the size of a frickin' Volkswagen Beetle. And I mean, it sounded insane. And another drummer, a guy named Andy Hubbard, who I think is still living out here in Nashville, a phenomenal drummer. It was produced by a guy named John Schreiner. I probably learned more about playing guitar from John Schreiner than just about anybody, and he's a keyboard player. But he just had and has absolutely brilliant ears. He's an insane musician. He's one of those guys that has perfect pitch, so you could, like shake a set of car keys in front of him, and he'd tell you the pitches and how sharp or flat they are from, like, the relative pitch in cents. He's that kind of crazy gifted guy. Loves guitar. And just the ideas he would hum to me. I've done several sessions for him. He would just hum ideas to me, and I'd be like, oh my God. So if you ever want to be a better guitar player, hang around keyboard players. They will hand you your butt on a platter. You'll learn really quick about what it is to actually be a musician that plays guitar if you get around those guys. I mean, John, just like such a sweet guy, but yeah, he told me like it was, that's for sure. So anyways, we've got all these like amazing cats on the record, and for some reason, they hired me too. So we get through the session. I do all my takes. Everything goes great. John, the producer, and actually Fernando, I had scads of guitars with me, but they kept having me come back around to this one, and because it just really did sound great. And I think I was using my divided by 13 FTR 37 that I've had for years for the amp. So it was just kind of the star of the show. So it's late at night when we finally finished the session. And, I didn't do cartage. I just brought all my own stuff. So I had this big, stupid yellow truck, like banana yellow truck that I had for years. I pulled it up and basically just started loading all these guitars in. I had probably 12 guitars, and then, of course, my pedal boards and, amp and cab and stuff. Spent all this time loading it in. Some of the guitars were in hard shell cases. Some of them were in soft shell cases. And this one, unfortunately, was in a soft case. And from what I can surmise, I, for some reason, felt led to lean this guitar in the soft case on the passenger side of the truck and continue loading things on the driver's side of the truck. Got it all loaded up, and guess what? Forgot. This is still leaning up against the truck. I'm tired. I fire up that old, V8 with the Flowmaster exhaust. So I don't hear nothing, man. I fire it up and drive away. And I'm basically on my way, south. So by this time I've taken the 101 south to the 5 south, and it dawns on me as I get on the 5. So I've been driving for about 20 minutes, like, good Lord, I think I left my Hellcat in the parking lot. And right as it dawned on me, my phone rings, and it's not Lee Sklar's phone, but it was John Schreiner's phone calling me, but the voice on the phone was Mr. Sklar, because Mr. Sklar had found my guitar laying in the parking lot like a corpse, which were, as I recall, his exact words. So yeah, somehow not only did I leave it, but I ran it over with the back wheels of my truck, snapping the headstock, not just like nice and clean. I mean, I splintered that dog. It was done. So I had to drive back up there, walk the Hall of Shame into Studio A at Capitol Records to retrieve the corpse. So that's what happened there. Now, what did I end up doing with it to sort it out? Well, of course, the first thing I did was call Schecter and see if I could buy a new neck. And I can't remember why, but they just were not down whatsoever for selling me a new neck for this, even though it was a bolt-on. They just wouldn't do it. So I went from that to panic mode, and ended up getting a Warmoth neck for it. And I really didn't even pick out a specific Warmoth neck. I just needed something that was in stock, that was ready to go, that I could fit on this guitar. And this is what I ended up with. It's a rosewood neck, and something I would almost never gravitate towards, even though it's really beautiful, is a bird's eye maple neck, because it just won't be stable. But that being said, I have never adjusted this neck, not once. So hats off to Warmouth. And as you can see, I've got a custom logo on there that yours truly did. It's very artful. It says PLD. I did it with a Sharpie. So this guitar is now known as the parking lot disaster model guitar. And it will remain so. It's just turned out to be such a cool guitar. Sometimes when I just got nothing on a session, I can get this thing out and it just wakes me up. It just, just gives me something. It just inspires me. The body's alder. These are not the same. Obviously, you can see that these are like Gretsch knobs that I bought at some point. Honestly, I hated the stock knobs that were on this thing. And I think I did put like MXR style knobs on it. And then I finally found these Gretsch knobs. And I actually had to, I think I drilled them out a little bit so they would actually fit on there. But I just thought they looked really, really cool. Did I say alder body? I don't know if I did or not. It's alder body. The tremolo stays in tune perfectly. This is one of the few guitars I own that's basically a Strat scale guitar, but I actually keep 11 gauge strings on this. So instead of 10 to 46, I'm doing 11 to 49s on this guitar because it just seems to really speak, with those strings. It is a little bit harder to play, but it's just got the tone, man. It's a really nice sounding guitar. So I just thought this would be kind of an interesting story. I've had this guitar for years. It's very dear to me. I'll never part with it, ever. And honestly, man, if you can find one of these guys used, the actual California custom, not the new USA model, they are really cool, really good sounding guitars. So that's my story. Tell me your stories, man. I want to hear, like, come on, man, somebody's had to have run their guitar over or left it someplace or loaned it to somebody and forgot about it, dumped beer all over it. I'd love to hear just, whatever you're willing to type. I'd love to hear your stories because I still to this day feel like an absolute ignoramus for not only leaving this fine guitar laying there like a corpse, but actually running it over. So yeah, as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for indulging me with this guitar, and we will see you next time.